What if the higher you climb, the more sure you become you're a fraud? The feeling of being an imposter isn't a flaw. It's actually the clearest sign you're a striver focused on growth. But you're missing one thing. It's easy to spot the striver. They're the ones who wake up with a vision, who are always leaning forward, and who want to do something truly meaningful with their time here. They're the people that take a real bite out of life. I'm talking about the musician barely scraping by, but driven by a deep sense of calling, or the entrepreneur who works 80 hours a week because they genuinely believe in the value they're creating. These are the hardworking, ambitious, and upwardly mobile people we admire. They pour their whole selves into their craft. They study, they practice, they sacrifice, and eventually, they start to climb. They get the promotion, the industry recognition, the successful launch, or the big break. The world looks at them and sees a winner. They see the polished exterior, the manifest strengths, and the value being created. And for a moment, the striver feels that rush of achievement. They made it. They earned it. But then an odd thing happens. A shadow falls over the success. The higher they climb, and the more undeniable their success becomes, the more insecure they feel. The joy of the achievement starts to curdle into anxiety. It's that nagging, whispering voice in the back of your mind that says, "Wait a minute. They think I'm amazing, but they don't know the truth. I'm not really as good as they think. I just got lucky. I'm going to be found out." This feeling, this corrosive suspicion that you're a fraud just waiting for exposure, is what we call imposter syndrome. It's one of the great paradoxes of ambition. You'd think that hard work, merit, and a track record of success would build an impenetrable fortress of confidence. Instead, for the striver, it often creates the exact opposite, a shaky pedestal made of doubt. Why? Because the truth is, imposter syndrome is completely natural. In fact, it's one of the clearest signs that you are a normal, healthy, and highly self-aware person. Think about the sheer amount of work you've put in just to get to this point. You know your strengths, yes, but you also have full 360-degree visibility into your weaknesses. You know exactly what you struggled with last week, what you failed at last month, and what skills you still haven't mastered yet. You are looking at the entire landscape of your ability. But what does the rest of the world see? They only see the value you create. They see the finished product, the successful presentation, the brilliant solution. They don't see the 4 failed drafts, the late-night panic, or the clumsy learning process. They are focused entirely on your manifest strengths, because that's what gets results. This creates an invisible gap between the person you are and the hero the world believes you to be. The world says, "You are a master." Your inner voice says, "I know I only mastered that one thing. Look at all the things I'm not good at yet." Because we are wired with something psychologists call the negativity bias, we naturally tend to focus more on what we lack than what we have. When you're an ambitious striver, that negativity bias becomes a spotlight aimed directly at your shortcomings, the very areas you are trying to improve. And when you focus intensely on what you don't have as an upwardly mobile person, you're going to feel like an imposter. That's just the arithmetic of self-awareness. So, the next time that little voice of doubt whispers that you don't deserve your success, pause for a moment. Instead of fighting it, consider this. That feeling of not being quite good enough is the shadow cast by your own high standards and your intense focus on growth. You're not satisfied resting on your laurels. You're already looking at the next mountain to climb. And that, fundamentally, is what separates the striver from, well, everyone else. We've established that the higher an ambitious person climbs, the more likely they are to be shadowed by doubt. But let's zoom in on why this happens. It all comes down to a fundamental disconnect between your internal experience and the world's external perception of you. This is the invisible gap. Imagine you're a fantastic architect who just designed a breathtaking skyscraper. When the building is finished, what do people see? They see the beautiful lines, the flawless glass, the structural integrity, and the stunning views. They see a masterpiece, and they see your strengths, your creativity, your technical precision, and your ability to execute a huge project. This is why you got the job, the praise, and the reward. The world is looking exclusively at the ways you create value. But what do you see? You don't just see the finished tower. You remember the messy process, the 3 early design concepts that were total failures, the sleepless night you spent fixing a calculation error, the dozens of hours you wasted trying to learn a new software program you still aren't great at. You have full visibility. You're looking at the entire battlefield, and you're painfully aware of the areas where you are still scrambling to improve. The world sees the 10% you've perfected. You see the 90% you're still working on. This difference in perspective is the engine of imposter syndrome. You, the striver, are intensely focused on your potential, on the person you want to be. You see your current self in light of your aspirational self, and the gap between those 2 versions feels huge. You're constantly looking for ways you can't create value yet. It's an admirable, humble, and healthy trait. You know what you're good at, and crucially, you know what you're not good at. And because of that pesky negativity bias we all share, your mind tends to hyper-focus on those deficiencies. So, while everyone else is celebrating your strengths, you're sitting there fixating on the 5 things you need to be better at to tackle the next challenge. This cycle, where success only amplifies your self-criticism, is the hallmark of the growth mindset. It means your internal measuring stick is higher than the external one. You're not trying to meet the world's expectations. You're trying to meet your own. When your healthy self-awareness tells you, I got lucky on that presentation, I still need to master data analysis, you jump to the unhealthy conclusion, I'm a fraud. The reality is far simpler. You're a highly functioning, ambitious person who just happens to have better insight into your own learning curve than anyone else does. However, there's one group that experiences 0 doubt, 0 anxiety, and 0 fear of being exposed. They are the perfectly confident people. And ironically, they're the ones who might actually be the real problem. It's exhausting, isn't it? Being the person who works hardest, achieves the most, but still feels the most doubt. That self-awareness is your superpower, but you're using all your energy just fighting the feeling instead of using it to build. You don't need another generic self-help trick. You need a simple, reliable roadmap. That's why I created a challenge calendar to guide you. It structures your motivation into 30 days of clarity, giving you small, winnable battles every single morning. Stop questioning your worth and start seeing real, undeniable proof of your progress. Ready to turn your potential into your routine? The link for the challenge calendar is waiting for you in the description below. We've seen that the feeling of imposter syndrome is actually a sign of health. It proves you're a humble, striving professional who sees your full self, flaws and all. But what about the people who are extremely successful, yet never seem to doubt themselves? What about the high flyers who are utterly convinced they've earned every accolade and deserve every reward, no matter the evidence? In my work, when I meet someone like this, someone who is highly accomplished but shows absolutely 0 sign of imposter syndrome, my antenna goes up. My spider sense starts tingling. Because usually, that is when I find what we in my profession call a dark triad. The dark triad isn't some comic book villain. It's a personality profile that combines 3 specific, above-average characteristics. Narcissism. It's all about me. This person needs excessive admiration and lacks empathy, seeing others only in relation to their own needs. Machiavellianism. I'm willing to do what it takes to get my way, including manipulating or hurting you. They are strategic, cold, and calculated. Psychopathy. Subclinical. I can hurt you and feel no remorse. They show a profound lack of empathy, a tendency toward thrill-seeking and emotional detachment. You might think people like this are super rare, but they're not. They are estimated to make up about 7% of the general population. It's roughly 1 in every 14 people. You know them. They've broken your heart, taken credit for your work, been disloyal, or made a work environment miserable. Here is the great, awful irony of success. The striver, the person who deserves success through hard work, merit, and personal responsibility, is the one who questions whether they've earned it. And the people who often don't truly deserve it are the ones who are most loudly and confidently sure that they do. Dark triads operate with a profound, unshakable confidence because they are missing the very things that cause self-doubt in healthy people: humility and a conscience. They don't see the full landscape of their abilities. They only see their right to the reward. They never experience the invisible gap because they don't care about their weaknesses, and they certainly don't care about the people they stepped on to get ahead. For them, success is proof of their inherent superiority, not a result of a messy, challenging, and humbling process. So, the next time you look at a highly successful person and think, wow, they must be completely confident, remember this contrast. Your feeling of self-doubt is not a flaw. It's the healthy, humble alarm bell that the dark triad simply doesn't have. It is, quite literally, proof of health. So, if the truly successful people, the strivers, are plagued by doubt, and the truly toxic people, the dark triads, are the only ones who feel perfectly confident, what does that tell you about the feeling of imposter syndrome? It tells you it's a green light. It's not a malfunction. It's evidence that your internal system is working exactly as it should. Think about what happens when you feel like an imposter. You're essentially telling yourself, I know the world thinks I'm great at X, but I know I still struggle with Y and Z. I better work on Y and Z so I can be the person they think I am. That right there is the mechanism for growth. The feeling of doubt is simply the manifestation of a healthy, curious, and ambitious mind that is focused on improvement. Your humility is your radar. It's helping you scan the horizon for the next challenge, the next skill you need to acquire, and the next level of expertise. Here's the simple truth. If you are doing well in your career, being rewarded for your efforts, and you are a good, normal, healthy person, you are going to wonder, is this earned? Do I really deserve it? Am I up to this task? Why? Because a healthy person possesses a modicum of humility. You know your strengths, which got you ahead, but you also have clear visibility into your weaknesses, which only you see. You aren't fooling yourself. You know you're not all strengths, and you know you have areas for growth. The world doesn't see your internal effort. They only see your external results. Therefore, your self-image, which includes your flaws, is almost always going to be less flattering than the public's image of you, which only sees your value. When you're well-adjusted, you're going to feel like a loser, or at least a highly imperfect work in progress, when everybody else sees you as a winner. But this self-doubt is precious. It is the key ingredient that the dark triad lacks. The confidence of a dark triad is a rigid, brittle thing rooted in an inflated ego. Your doubt, however, is flexible and motivating. It is a dynamic force telling you, don't stop here. You can get better. If you feel imposter syndrome, that's great news. It means you're self-aware, you're honest about your limits, and you are fundamentally a striver, not a faker. It means all kinds of good things about your character. The trick is not to let that feeling paralyze you. It's an opportunity, not an indictment. Now that you know the feeling is a healthy sign, you can use it to push yourself further. So, you're a healthy, ambitious striver, and you know that feeling like an imposter is just the natural shadow of your own humility and high standards. The final step is figuring out what to do with that feeling, because simply feeling it isn't enough. You need to leverage it. The answer isn't to get rid of imposter syndrome. That would mean getting rid of your self-awareness and humility, a price only the dark triad is willing to pay. The answer is to understand it, keep up with it, and use it as a map for where you need to go next. This is the mantra. Lean in without giving in. Lean into the feeling by acknowledging it. When that voice whispers, "You're going to be found out," you can talk back and say, "Maybe, but that only means I know exactly what I need to work on." Instead of letting the self-doubt paralyze you with shame, treat it as a detailed, personalized growth opportunity. Remember that invisible gap? The one between the winner the world sees and the work in progress you know you are. That gap is your opportunity. When you focus on what you don't have yet, you are automatically giving yourself a crystal clear curriculum for improvement. The weaknesses you're fixating on aren't failures. They're your next big projects. When you're an accomplished professional and things are going well, people are focusing intensely on your strengths. They're rewarding you for those manifest strengths because that's where you create value. And the good news is, if things are going well, you likely do have more manifest strengths than weaknesses. Your job isn't to convince yourself you're perfect. Your job is to focus on closing that gap, one skill at a time. Don't miss the opportunity. If other people overestimate how awesome you are, and of course, as a successful striver, they do, you don't have to follow suit. You can use their high opinion as motivation. Keep your focus directed toward the ways you can actually become better, the skills you can acquire, and the habits you can solidify. If you feel imposter syndrome, that's your proof of health. Now turn that proof into a plan. By consistently applying yourself to the very weaknesses that cause you anxiety, you are actively choosing growth over complacency. You are taking responsibility for your development. You are defining your success not by avoiding mistakes, but by relentlessly improving. So the next time that doubt creeps in, don't let it become a break. Let it become your accelerator. Keep striving, keep learning, and keep working to become the person you truly want to be. The doubt is just a sign that you're on the right path.